There's a whole cult going on over there with a bunch of hooded guys glorifying a red crystal sitting right in the middle of the altar. Out of nowhere, a demon gets sliced in half, and we see this crazy dude throwing attacks everywhere. That wild one is Ray Chong, the sword master. He's shouting to the soldiers that he'll clear a path and tells them to follow him. Then an old man shows up casting magic while riding a T-Rex. That's the necromancer Jor Vilmare. And here she comes, the one everyone's been waiting for, our blonde priestess Maria Jagger. She points her sword and yells, "We need to stop this summoning ritual." Then someone says, "Too late." The red crystal starts glowing with strange lights, ready to explode. It begins to split apart, and suddenly a system message pops up saying the tower's rank has been changed to hard mode. There's a huge explosion, and some monstrous thing crawls out of the crystal. The system flashes again. The tower objective has been updated. Everyone is frozen, staring at the boss. This is the boss of Season 5, the Plague Elder. To me, he looks like a Walmart goblin. In the blink of an eye, he's slashing in every direction, sending soldiers flying. The system shows the new objective: eliminate the Plague Elder. Meanwhile, the frontline soldiers are getting crushed by tentacles. They're all dead already. Our blonde priestess is sweating bullets, doing everything she can to withstand the Plague Elder's attacks. The boss keeps whipping those tentacles around, wiping everyone out. Ray, trembling with fear, says he doesn't want to die and starts running. A soldier nearby calls out to him, but he's already sprinting away like a bullet train. Then in Walmart, Piccolo raises his blade and asks where that foolish human thinks he's going. He swings, destroying everything around him. And just as Ray is about to be erased, someone appears blocking the Plague Elder strike. The background characters are in shock realizing they're saved because that man is the Hero King. Honestly, I thought the Sword Master was the protagonist, but turns out he's just a coward who ran away and nearly died from a single strike. Anyway, there he is, our golden boy, standing there with that serious protagonist face. Without hesitation, he charges at the boss who counters with a barrage of slashes aimed at our hero. Just like Sun Jinnu, he deflects every single one of Walmart Piccolo's attacks. The Plague Elder gives a slight grin, and the two are about to clash. A massive explosion erupts. Everyone's scrambling to protect themselves, even our blonde priestess. She shouts his name. "Can you, son?" I knew it. Of course, there had to be a song in there somewhere. While exchanging blows, the Plague Elder smiles. "To think you dare attack me alone. How foolish. The hope of humanity. The Hero King shall drown in a sea of plagues." With a smug grin, Walmart Piccolo says he'll die there with no one coming to help him. But our boy doesn't seem to care about what the Elder's saying. He's more worried about not letting people see his full power. He gives this confident smile and says, "Let's finish this." The boss, looking completely lost, can't understand what's happening. A lightning bolt descends from the sky, striking and obliterating our Walmart Piccolo. Everyone tries to shield themselves from the shockwave. George just stands there with a dumbfounded face, not believing what he's seeing. Then all the soldiers start cheering that they've won, while our boy stands there in the middle of it all, completely Chad. With that, the system announces that the Plague Elder has been defeated, and all players in the top 100 will receive an equipment ticket of rare rank or higher. For the top 10 players, it's a heroic rank ticket. Obviously, for our boy, it's a mythic rank ticket, Black Death, and the title of Elder Slayer since he's the one who took down the boss. Then, he collapses onto the ground, lying there deep in thought. Thanks to this, the world can go on for one more year. The scene cuts to an interview where they're introducing our boy as rank 1 among heroes for 4 consecutive years. A hero among heroes, the king. He's just standing there with that blank expression while they take 1,000 photos of him. Looks like the guy's really famous. There's even a little girl holding a plushie of him and some guy selling shirts with his face on them. Back in the interview, someone asks if he'd like to say something to all the heroes present. Maria instantly grabs his arm and begs him to say something polite. She clasps her hands together and says, "This is a live broadcast, so please don't mess it up." Apparently, there's a whole bunch of heroes gathered there. Maria is sweating more than I do after 5 minutes at the gym. And now we find out this interview is taking place at the UN in Geneva, Switzerland. Smiling, our boy grabs the mic and says something that would probably get the video demonetized if I repeated it here, then adds that he does all of this just for the money. Right away, everyone's stunned. Maria nearly has a heart attack. He slams his hand on the table and says, "I've been tired of this for a long time. Doing everything alone is too hard." In the next chapter, we see how it all started. The world turned into a game, and countless towers appeared in the sky. After a few days, monsters begin pouring out of them, wiping out humanity. A massive goblin swings his blade, and everyone realizes this is the end of the world. A gorgeous woman lies on the ground. We've only got one beauty left, and a second one's about to die. Run, girl. Blood splatters everywhere as she cries. Then, a badass shows up, slicing the goblin's arm clean off. These are the players. They hunt monsters and protect people. Then, the New World laws are revealed, explaining that the phenomenon of monsters leaving the towers can be prevented as long as the towers are cleared within the time limit. Classic cliché, right? That's why players with superpowers were seen as heroes of the New World. We cut back to our boy, saying he's tired of it all and only does it for money. Meanwhile, that clown's sitting there like Elf from Death Note, watching himself and telling the audience to buy his shirts and posters. He checks the PF, the player forum, where players trade info and items. The protagonist typing something, wondering how they even know it's him. Some people ask to join his group, while others are curious about who he really is. One guy says he's a reporter and that he's heading to his house when the new season starts. Our boy stands up, looks out the window, and sees the place swarming with reporters, something he absolutely hates. He walks out all Chad, like hands in his pockets, and a reporter rushes up asking how he plans to face the new season and what he meant when he said he's been tired for a long time. Smirking, our boy asks, "You know what celebrities say on TV after they drink themselves stupid and cause trouble?" The slick guy smiles and says he'll make up for it with good work. The reporters just stand there confused, wondering what that even means. Honestly, I didn't get it either. Moving on. Suddenly, the ground starts shaking. A tremor hits. The little system pops up, announcing that Season 6 has begun, and players should check the information before entering the tower. The system, all cute as usual, reminds everyone to be careful when descending the tower. A bunch of towers start appearing, and the system warns. Conquer the towers and protect the world from destruction. The reporters are all frozen, staring up at the sky, while our sleep boy just pulls his hood up and walks away, leaving behind a pile of flyers advertising his shirts and plushies. The digital marketing king himself. Then we see a system notification saying someone has reached their destination. Our boys already, they're saying there's no one around and that the first day of the season is always quiet. Then a group of elders shows up laughing and granting him blessings. The bald one with horns is the Elder of Steel, and the blue-haired elf woman is the Elder of Ice. He's just standing there scratching his cheek while receiving all kinds of blessings from them. Apparently, there are these transcendent beings who watch over the players. And the more you fool around, the more the elders like you, rewarding you with totally broken blessings. Just like when he pulled that stunt during the UN interview, Dan bullies. That same day, the Elder of Gold bursts out laughing like a maniac and grants him the blessing of the legendary gacha. Basically, our boy's luck gets boosted for 3 gachas, guaranteeing him at least 1 legendary reward. This is completely broken, people. The rascal grins and says, "Open all unclaimed rewards at once." He raises his hand, and we already see that golden glow. The idiot looks just like me opening cases in Counter-Strike, thinking I'm about to pull the knife, but since he's the protagonist, of course, he gets a legendary cloak that's absurdly overpowered. There are so many stats it would take an hour just to summarize them. Basically, it has 999 evasion, and when equipped, it can activate the Surf Shield skill, which has a cooldown of 168 hours. Our boy smiles, thinking, a legendary armor, a legendary skill, and a legendary artifact. Then he poses like a total Chadby with his hands in his pockets, and says, "Enter the tower." He's teleported, and right then another message pops up. The Elder of Gold has removed the legendary Gaka blessing and replaced it with the blessing of shirt sales. Man, I need an elder like that in my life. He arrives at the tower where a giant green foot stomps down and an orc bellows. Kill the human. Our boys in the Moonblood, Orc Tribe Tower Tier 3. Smirking, he says it's time to test his new skills. Create Ice Blade. He conjures the blade, thanks the Ice Elder, and charges forward, delivering a devastating slash. The orcs are stunned. One tries to swing an axe, but gets frozen mid-attack. Our boy doesn't stop. He keeps firing off icy slashes in every direction. In just a second, it's over. He strolls through the frozen orcs, looking like an absolute Chad. He gains a ton of attributes and levels up on the spot. A message appears. First floor cleared. Scratching his head and smiling, he says it's a good start. Maybe he'll save the world or something again. Then he reaches the second floor, already wearing that sad face like me on a Monday morning. Looking down, there's a bunch of orcs drinking, partying, and shouting. One of them notices the protagonist, and suddenly they're all yelling to kill the hero, vowing to fight with honor until their last breath. But our boy is unstoppable. He calmly tells them to relax, and he leaps into the air shouting, and it'll send them all to heaven. The scene cuts to someone climbing stairs. It's just our protagonist reaching the 4th level of the tower, thinking, I really enjoy earning EXP, but this is tough without a rest floor. And something catches his attention. Looking ahead, There's a group of elite orcs blocking the path to the boss. He just stares at them, thinking how painfully obvious this setup is. Then the little system window pops up again saying, "Fight for your life with honor." Another message appears. The Elder of Iron has blessed the elite orcs. The leader of the orcs starts shouting that the Elder of Iron has blessed them. All those fools begin yelling, "Valhalla awaits us." And yeah, those poor extras are really about to fight our protagonist. They even start singing some song for the Elder of Iron while charging straight at our boy. Kong calls for a break and starts preparing himself, slashing in every direction. But then something catches his attention. One orc comes in low while another leaps from above, ready to finish him off. He dodges and swings from behind with a slash, but it does no damage. He mutters that he knew it. These are elite orcs. Their defense has been greatly enhanced. A few orcs try to land hits, but he keeps jumping and dodging everything. Looking at them, he says he'll need something big to take them down, but he doesn't have any other skills. That's when he remembers an artifact and opens his inventory. Staring at it, he says he's not sure if he can handle using it right now. The orcs getting angrier shout for him to come down and fight like a real warrior. One of them hurls a massive axe at him. And that's when our boy decides it's no time to be scared of using something powerful. He equips the artifact. The little system pops up. You have equipped the Frozen Heart. You have gained the effects of glacial synergy. Holding his ice blade, our boy mutters that old saying, "Rich get richer and the strong get stronger." An orc swings his huge axe, but it's blocked. Our boy's left arm transforms into a shield of ice and slash. He slices the goblin clean in half. The poor goblin lies frozen on the floor as our boy keeps leveling up. Two more orcs try to ambush him from behind, but he blocks everything. He grips their weapons tightly, freezing and shattering them to pieces. The orcs are in shock, completely lost on what to do. Then he prepares another strike and slash two orcs down. Another one jumps trying to crush him, but he's already been cut down midair, splattered against the ceiling. Meanwhile, our protagonist just keeps leveling up. In full Sun Jun-woo style, Kong now holds two daggers, and one of the orcs gives that "oh no, we're screwed" look. Honestly, I get you, orc. I think to same your place. And then comes the cutting spree. Slashes here, there, and an X-shaped one right through. Yeah, this protagonist definitely a Sun Apprentice. He's unstoppable, launching another wave of slashes, and the orc can only stare, not even understanding what's happening. Standing there like a total Chad, says another floor cleared, grinning, he adds that he forgot one, turns around and launches a giant ice orb straight into an orc's face, dropping him lifeless to the ground. Then comes the flood of messages. You have cleared the elite floor. He starts receiving random skills and 1,000 achievement points. Stepping on the poor orc's back, he commands "open skill box." A blue flash of light blinds everything around, and he gets a common skill. He groans, disappointed, saying he thought it would be a legendary one. Aim, thrust. Basically converts a physical skill into a piercing attack. Walking forward, he says, "A common skill. Huh? Well, better than nothing. Keep, he." He opens a gate and arrives at what looks like the center of the tower. Someone greets him and compliments him for still being alive. Our boy replies that it sounded kind of disappointing. The little elf girl answers, "Not at all. I need you alive so I can sell more items." She checks his total points and says, 1,600 points. That's a lot. You better spend them before you die. This is Automata, the shopkeeper, a creation of the Elder of Machines. The protagonist asks to see what she's selling. She starts offering various card packs, saying he might pull a legendary one. Don't fall for that, kid, and always do every time I open a case in CS2. After that advice, the protagonist only spends 300 points buying one speed potion and one fire potion. He's already walking away while Ottoman keeps yelling for him to buy those card packs. But our boy, now fully convinced, covers his ears, saying he can't hear anything. And boom, the little system pops up, announcing that he's entered the boss floor. He faces the boss, who says it's time to fight. In the blink of an eye, the boss is right in front of him, launching an attack, which he blocks using a magic barrier. But the barrier shatters, and our boy's in shock. He retreats, saying this guy is huge and that the other orcs were like dwarfs in comparison. He quickly grabs the fire potion and throws it straight at the boss's face, setting everything ablaze. Yeah, looks like we're having grilled orc today. Or maybe not, because the boss wars and cancels all fire magic. But our sneaky boy is already behind him, thrusting at the back of the boss's neck. He swings down a vertical slash at full speed, cutting straight through the boss's chest. The protagonist smiles, saying that wasn't a bad fight. Then some green slime drips onto the ground, and the boss growls, saying it's not over yet. He roars and activates his berserk skill. Kong glances back with a grin, saying he does my little challenge. The boss starts unleashing his full power, and our boy activates a shield. With that sarcastic tone, he says, "If that shock wave and hit me, I'd be dead right now." The boss charges again, launching a double strike that shatters his shield. But Kong backs off, starting a countdown. He keeps defending himself as best as he can while counting 113. He jumps, dodges another strike. 59, 3, 2, he grabs the fire potion bottle from ground. At 1, he lets it fly. Ding. Perfect pose for a photo. Looks like the berserk mode ran out and the boss collapses with a crater in his chest. And here we go again. The system floods him with messages saying he's cleared the Orc Tower and will receive tons of rewards. Out of all of them, the most important is the Aspect skill card pack. It can give either a common or a legendary skill. He tells it to open. Boom. Common skill. He's left there looking bored, having received a skill called Ice Projectile. Checking it, he complains that this game sucks, then walks off. The next chapter starts in the Tower of the Dark Sadness. What a lame name. Author, let's be more creative, please. Some little demons are already rushing toward our boy, but he's standing still, charging a skill. He unleashes the new skill on them. Then he spreads his arms and says he loves leveling up his skills. Skill up notification pops up, and the system warns that Wave 2 is about to begin. A whole army of purple demons appears, ready to finish off the protagonist. Kong grins and says, "Give me 1 second, guys, and I'll give you exactly what you're asking for." Slash. A blue flash slices through everything. Skill leveled up. Then someone calls him a filthy heretic. He just stands there watching, and that's when the Devil Bishop, the tower boss, shows up, declaring that he'll offer Kang's blood to the Demon King. The bishop, looking like a horned monkey, points his finger and yells, "Attack him! Kill him!" Before his servants can even move, they're already slashed, sent flying. The boss turns around completely lost, and our boy wastes no time. He slashes him, too. When the bishop finally looks, it's too late. He's frozen solid like a popsicle. Our boy walks toward him, saying this is perfect. Now he can test several skills. For example, how many ice weapons he can create at his current level. He grabs the spears and starts his dart session, throwing one after another at the bishop, who takes every single hit and ends up full of holes like Swiss cheese. But there's still one left. He throws it with all his strength, and the bishop gets completely vaporized. Notifications pop up. He receives another random equipment choice, tells the system to open it, and gets a common armor. He says he doesn't need it since he already has a legendary one. Scratching his chin, he mutters that he didn't feel much of a power difference when using 8 ice blades. Suddenly, a message appears, "Confront your shadow." He turns around and sees a huge event window. Basically, within the realm of the towers, there are factions led by the elders. These factions try to form alliances with players to expand their influence, and players can complete the factions' missions to earn better rewards. Looks like our boy already accepted it, because now we're at the meeting of the Shadow Council. Apparently, he's already part of this council since one of the guys there says they remember him. Then another asks, "Will you face your shadow and once again become one with our deepest secrets?" Our boy stands there thinking, saying that the Shadow Council really is good. But then he speaks up, "You all know I'd like to join, but there are too many factions that don't like you." Walmart Crow responds, "You'll be protected by our cloak. Have you forgotten what we're capable of?" He replies that he hasn't forgotten, and that's exactly why he's unsure. The man asks, "Then what do you desire?" Our boy's been waiting for that question. He grins, thinking he's not joining for free. He extends his hand and says he wants the Beast of Shadows, and while he's at it, also requests a rare dark skill card. The Shadow Crows deflate, not knowing what to say. One of them hisses, "Don't overestimate yourself, mortal. You mortals are nothing, but..." Kin cuts him off, saying, "All right, whatever. It was nice meeting you, and I hope we never meet again. Goodbye." Someone from the back calls out for him to wait. Suddenly, a shadowy cat appears. And yeah, it's adorable, even though it's a creature of darkness, right guys? Team Cats forever. It jumps toward the protagonist, and a message appears. "You've received the Beast of Shadows." Along with that, he earns a special achievement, Hidden Adoption. The Shadow Beast sits proudly at his feet, looking badass as ever. And he also gets 100,000 achievement points. Okay, the author definitely broke the system there. Kang's all smiles, petting the cat when another reward shows up. The rare skill Shadow Blade. The Crow Elder, clearly disappointed, asks if that's all. Look at that smug grin. He says, "Fantastic. I'll join the Shadow Council." The scene cuts to our boy stretching, saying, "This season's off to a great start." He adds that maybe he'll take a little time to rest. Then 2 guys show up behind him, calling out his name. He turns around startled sighs and says, "Damn it, here we go again." A bunch of reporters rush in, asking the same questions as always. How he managed to clear 2 Terror 3 towers in one day. and begging him to explain how he did it. He stands there with his eyes closed and away by the flashes and says, "I'm good, I guess." Impressive, right? One reporter mentions there are rumors that the Swordmaster from China also cleared a Tier 4 tower, saying, "Things are getting competitive this season." Kong looks surprised, wondering Tier 4, then asks how many people were with him. The reporter says the Swordmaster was accompanied by 5 veterans from the Chinese guild, but 4 of them were killed in battle. Crossing his arms, our boy comments that the guy must be extremely talented at using human shields. One of the reporters asks if he's implying that the Swordmaster is intentionally using people like that. At that same moment, news breaks that the Swordmaster has just entered a level 5 tower. The protagonist asks how many victims this time. They reply that he went alone. Crossing his arms again, he says someone's full of energy and excitement for the very first day. He thinks to himself that it makes no sense to rush into the towers right at the start of the season. That's why the Sake is busy gathering skills and items, and the Necromancer is dealing with his own business. Still thinking, he says the Swordmaster must have gotten some incredible loot from that level 4 tower. The reporters won't give him a single moment of peace and start asking what he thinks about the Swordmaster. Scratching his ear with the most cynical look imaginable, he says the Swordmaster is a total idiot. The reporters are stunned, asking if he isn't planning to compete with the Idiot Master. Raising his hand, he says, "I guess you still don't know me well enough. I'm an idiot, too, but I'd rather be the idiot who wins." Not knowing what else to say to reporters, ask him to reconsider his words. Changing the subject, our boy asks who can take him to the level 5 tower. The scene cuts to him stepping on a glowing golden circle. Suddenly, several system windows pop up, saying that a betting game among the elders has begun, hosted by the Elder of Jesters. The Monarch of Frost bets in his favor and tells him not to disappoint him. In the Tower of War, a massive historical defense battle awaited. Players couldn't be on the same side. The goal of the raid was simple: emerge victorious. Our boy already knew the Swordmaster would be there. This was the chance he'd been waiting for. The moment he saw it, he entered the tower. He immediately receives a system message. The ruthless Cavalith Empire has launched a war of conquest and has reached the fortress of the Kingdom of Radia. The outcome of this historic battle rests in your hands. Kong has to choose between conquest and defense. He hesitates for a second, unsure of what to do. Then he notices that the Swordmaster already chose the Cavalith Empire. Without thinking, he selects the Kingdom of Radia. Since they were at a disadvantage, the rewards would be even greater. In an instant, he's teleported into a meeting room with the officers of the Kingdom of Radia. Everyone bursts out, cheering, shouting their player has arrived. There's even a crazy blonde guy thanking God and others humming each other in joy. Looking around, he realizes everyone's already preparing for the incoming war. He pulls up a chair and asks who's in command. All the soldiers go silent. Then a pair of boots steps forward. A man introduces himself as Muda Dusham, the fortress's defense commander. The chubby guy starts rambling about being part of the royal family and blah blah blah. But our protagonist cuts him off and asks if he really wants to win this battle. All confident, the egghead nods and says yes, claiming that while they may lack military strength, the kingdom's spirit is unmatched. While the fat guy keeps talking, Kong suddenly punches him in the gut, sending him rolling like a bowling ball. The protagonist stands tall and declares that he's in command now. Looking at the trembling soldiers, he asks them to brief him on their troops and the Empire's as well. Then we cut to him overlooking the kingdom thinking. 5,000 soldiers and about 900 archers, an army completely insignificant compared to the Empire's forces. Luckily, it seems there are no mages in this world or any magic at all. Besides that, the Swordmaster's skill set isn't exactly made for fighting large groups of enemies. He's the apostle of the Elder of Steel. Normally, players can only be contracted to a single elder. As a result, they can only receive reward from that one monarch. I'm a special case. I can receive rewards from several. I'm the only one with that privilege thanks to the Monarch of Gesters. On the other hand, monarchs can be contracted by multiple players, but only one player can be chosen as an apostle. Monarchs give massive support to their apostles, but in return, they face heavy limitations. For example, the Swordmaster can't fully unleash any skill that doesn't relate to the Monarch of Steel. Feeling confident, he thinks this battle can be won, but the soldiers around him are trembling in fear. No one truly knows how real the kingdoms inside the towers are. It might be real people, or just imagined beings that exist only within the towers. Although at this point, I doubt it really matters. Now, how am I going to raise their morale? The scene shifts to birds flying overhead and someone shouting that the player has come to save the kingdom. They'd also announced that Duke Dookham has been dismissed from his position as commander and that the player has taken over. Some soldiers start cheering, saying that finally that pig has been removed and a player will lead them instead. Our boy smiles because just by firing Duke Muda, the troops' morale has shot through the roof. Suddenly, Kong hears a loud noise. A soldier reports that enemy troops have started their assault. The archers begin raining arrows down, and one enemy soldier gets hit right in the mouth as he tries to climb up. Another soldier shouts that the enemies are trapped at the gates. Stopping a Mao will crush their morale completely. Our boy grins and calls for the Beast of Shadows. And honestly, I thought the Beast of Shadows was a cat, but no. It's basically a gigantic Tyrannosaurus Rex. He grips his sword and tells his kitty to show its power. The enemy soldiers are terrified, asking what that thing is. One of them says he can feel a massive dark presence behind the walls. The commander orders them to hold formation and stay focused. But mid-sentence, a scream echoes and everyone asks what's happening. Slash. Blood sprays everywhere. The sound of blades cutting fills the air and dozens of soldiers are impaled. One panicked soldier runs yelling that it's a monster and that they need to retreat to another wall. But our boy is already there, freezing them all with his ice powers, saying that his little kitty's hungry. He smirks and says, "Enjoy your snack, chomp." The Beast of Shadows wipes them all out. The next chapter begins with a rain of arrows falling over the enemy soldiers. Meanwhile, our boy is unleashing icy slashes across the entire battlefield. Then he suddenly has a realization. Where's the Swordmaster? Our protagonist thinks it through. It's a double-edged situation. It's great for boosting morale, but it will also expose him to the enemy player. A soldier shouts that the enemy player is fighting on the front lines. However, this isn't a fight to the death. Just like any other game, this tower has its own rules. When one player is defeated by another, the loser is simply expelled from the tower and their attempt is marked as failed. Players can't kill each other inside the towers, but the tower itself can kill a player. Our boy thinks to himself that he's not dying here, but that doesn't mean he'll accept defeat. With a serious expression, he says, "So that's how it's going to be," and immediately releases a storm of blades at the enemy soldiers, cutting them all down. Frustrated, he wonders if the Swordmaster is just going to wait until everyone's dead. Then something strange starts happening with the swords around them. One allied soldier looks up and yells, "The swords. They're moving on their own." All the blades suddenly start flying straight toward our boy. He's analyzing the situation, realizing the Swordmaster's using a sword telekinesis technique. He wonders how the guy managed to control such a heroic skill. Was it luck, or did the Monarch of Steel grant it to him? Leaping into the air, he dodges a sword coming straight for him. While weaving through the flying blades, he admits that this guy really came prepared. Smirking, he says, "But I wasn't exactly sitting around either." He lands, channeling his shadow power, and shatters a wave of swords rushing his way. Mocking his opponent, he says, "Too late, buddy. I've already finished perfecting my shadow blade skill." The enemy soldiers shout in panic, "The player's here. He's with the Cavalith Empire and fights for the Emperor." Our boy realizes the Swordmaster is only here for him. The enemy soldiers start getting fired up, saying the battle's turning in their favor. Smirking, our boy draws his ice sword and says they'll need a lot more than that to bring him down. He drives his sword into the ground, knowing that the more blades that are summoned, the weaker the ability becomes. Preparing to counter the attack, he says, "That's not going to work." He grins and a shield materializes. A moment later, we see someone trying to defend against the blast. The shield shatters and the enemy is thrown backward, looking completely Chad. Protagonist mocks him, saying, "You didn't actually think that power would be enough to defeat me, did you? You didn't think about attacking the fortress instead with that little sword telekinesis of yours." "Anoi," the Swordmaster says, "do you even know the victory conditions for this tower? Even if we destroy the fortress and the soldiers, the Empire only wins by defeating you." Kong replies, "And you still chose to side with them knowing that. So, you're the one who's going to defeat me." The Swordmaster declares that a hero's duty is to protect the world, and that scum like Kong would never understand that. Growing angrier, he yells that Kong doesn't deserve to be called the Hero King. Kong fires back, "I guess your guild members aren't included in that world you're supposed to protect, huh?" The Swordmaster, furious, charges at him, shouting, "I won't let you die peacefully." Smiling, the protagonist says, "Don't worry, I'm not dying before you do." He blocks with an ice shield and counterattacks. The Swordmaster shouts that such tricks are useless, but then suddenly feels a presence behind him. He spins around, blade raised, ready to fight. He knows the Mars are watching, and losing here could cost him dearly. Kong turns back with a grin and says, "I'm not fighting you." Leaping in the opposite direction. The Swordmaster is confused. He doesn't understand where Kong is going. Then it hits him. The reason Kong fought so openly from the start wasn't to boost the soldiers' morale. Our boys sprinting straight toward the enemy troops who are already panicking and running the other way. The Swordmaster accelerates after him, shouting furiously, "Stop right now. Use on Kong." The scene cuts to the commander's tent where the soldiers outside are screaming about a monster and telling everyone to run. The commander, angry and confused, asks what the intruder is doing while the guards try to calm him down. Suddenly, our protagonist bursts into the tent saying, "Found you." With a sharp look, he adds, "There's always more than one way to win a game," and prepares to strike. In the next chapter, the soldiers are shouting as Kong charges forward, slashing horizontally and cutting the commander clean in half. The swordmaster arrives moments later, shouting, "You bastard." Kong mocks him, saying, "You should kept your commander hidden. Didn't you realize all I needed to do was stop the Empire's advance?" The swordmaster, enraged, rushes at Kong with everything he's got, but his sword suddenly disappears. The system announces it's too late. The tower has been cleared. Kong now gets to choose one of the swordmaster's abilities. He has 3 options. Frustrated, the swordmaster growls, "You bastard. I'll kill you. You'll die by my hands." Kong keeps teasing him as he selects the swordmaster's ability, saying, "You want me to take this one? Then I won't say no." The system pops up. You've stolen the sword telekinesis skill and gained the metal synergy effect. Outraged, the swordmaster screams, "This isn't over. Do you hear me, Kong?" Smiling, our boy thanks him and says he's looking forward to the next skill. Then the scene shifts. It looks like a dream. A mask falls to the ground, and our boy sees a familiar vision. The system appears talking about a boy of many faces and many talents while Kong stands there completely serious. The system continues asking if he wants to become a hero. Picking up the mask from the ground, he says he always dreams of this around this time of year, and his decision is always the same. Out of nowhere, a creepy clown shows up laughing, saying, "You should become the hero of heroes, but they'll never accept you. You'll always be a meme." With a twisted grin, the clown says he's now a brilliant joke. Without any surprise, Kong puts on the mask, and the contract of the Monarch of Masks is completed. Suddenly, our boy wakes up to his phone ringing. Then there's knocking on the door, and someone says they know he's in there. Rubbing his face, Kong says he just had that awful dream again and wonders why this guy's here so early. All cheerful, Kong opens the door and says, "What's someone like you doing here?" The guy responds, "Is that how you're going to treat me now? Just because you got a little famous?" This is Hazak Park, a rank 30 player contracted to the Assassin Monarch, better known as the Hitman. He's also a department chief at the National Intelligence Agency, which operates directly under the Blue House. Our boy asks if he's tired of doing the same old things in that game. Smiling, Park says he doesn't have time for that anymore. Shaking slightly, he explains that he's been busy dealing with those idiots who only know how to start wars, using players to play their little games of conquest. Kong thanks him for his service. Park then asks why he wasn't answering his phone. Kong says he was sleeping. Suddenly, Park trips over the mess in Kang's apartment and says, "This is how you live." Who would have guessed the Hero King lived like this? With an annoyed look, Kong says he hates that title while picking trash off the floor. Park teases, saying his place looks like Shrek's swamp. He keeps lecturing him, saying that if he keeps eating all those canned foods, he's going to die. Annoyed, Kong asks what's wrong with his food, pointing out that he's got plenty left. Like a nagging father, Park's eyes lies down on the bed and tells him to cook 2 of the big ones. Then we get a flashback of how our boy met Mr. Park. Kang's there, completely focused on an online game, looking exactly like me playing Fortnite back in 2019. He finishes the match, and the guy behind him is in shock, already grabbing his phone to tell someone he just beat the game. Everyone around is wide-eyed and sweating, wondering if he really just cleared it. Then Mr. Park appears, asking if there's any game Kong isn't good at, thinking he's some kind of prodigy. Like a proper esports manager, he immediately approaches Kong, asking if he wants to go pro. Confused, Kong says gaming is just a hobby for him. Next scene, we see Mr. Park convincing Kang's parents to let him drop out of school and make a living through games just like me in 2019 with Fortnite. Sad times. But Mr. Park's not just some noob. He's there late at night, helping Kong refine his skills. However, on the very day Kong was supposed to go pro, the first season began, and that's when the tower breaks appeared. That's how it all started. We see our boy collapsing to the ground as something massive rushes toward him. A huge monster appears, ready to devour him. But guess who shows up just in time? Mr. Park stabbing his dagger right into the head of that Walmart lizard. Mr. Park asks if he's okay, but our boy's already screaming for his mom. Kong is on his knees crying for his parents. But that day, the same day he lost them, he met his hero. Back to the present, Kong asks, "So what brings you here?" "Mr." Park replies, "I'm here on behalf of the association." Next chapter, 4:55 a.m. At the Player Graduation Academy, the students are training against a simulation. One of them notices the Hero King watching and says he heard Kang's going to test them, hoping he won't have to beat him to graduate. Another student laughs and says that won't happen, claiming they're already guaranteed to graduate. He adds, "Who does Kong think he's rescheduling the exam for 5 a.m.? He's a player just like the rest of us." Kong watches quietly from outside when one of the staff members approaches and says, "What do you think? We reorganize our training to make it more structured." Our protagonist asks if those kids have been getting boosts since day one, referring to inexperienced players help rookies clear towers so they can collect all the rewards. The man smiles nervously and says, "It's an honor to have Mr. Kong evaluating our academy's finest members." Kong steps forward, already changing into his combat outfit and drawing his sword. He says, "My terms haven't changed. I'll be evaluating their real skills. Their graduation depends on me." The students freeze. The exam is starting. President Sono agrees, though he finds Kong unbearably arrogant. Still, he's confident the students are ready, especially at the start of the season. He even thinks they'll give the Hero King a hard time. But when he actually sees the scene unfold, he's speechless. One by one, the students are being taken out without mercy. Kong effortlessly fails them all, saying, "You failed." Next, one girl collapses on the ground, crying, certain she's failed too. But Kong says, "You passed." Confused, she asks how that's possible. Kong replies that she got lucky. She managed to last longer than the other 12 players and tells her never to forget that luck means everything to players. Then he announces, "That's it, folks. Turn off the cameras. Congratulations to the first graduate of the Player Academy." Still in shock, the girl stays on the ground, whispering, "Cameras? What cameras?" At that moment, the president and several organizers burst through the door, furious. "We ask you to evaluate the students, not." Kong cuts him off. "Do I look stupid to you?" He continues, "These kids are all the children of your executives. You use me to test them and gather data, and you hired a bunch of brainless rank players to boost them, so they could later become your association's little lapdogs." Kong smirks and says he doesn't have much hope for the association if these are their students. Furious, the president is about to curse at him. "You don't know a damn thing about how the real world works. Stay in your place. You think you're a hero just because people call you that." He keeps going, saying that players are nothing more than weapons used by the government, not just in Korea, but all over the world to keep their nation safe. With a crazed look, the president insists that what the world needs now are war heroes. He says Kong must cooperate with them for the sake of the country, practically begging him. Kong knows they just want to use players as tools for war, and since they call him arrogant, he decides it's time to teach them a lesson. The president tries to keep persuading him, but suddenly a staff member rushes in, saying, "There's a problem." The president looks at the tablet, his face going pale. Kong, smiling, says, "It looks like the academy is going to have to shut down." The president demands to know how that video of the students got leaked. Our protagonist replies, "Did you forget? I've got the intelligence department on my side." The comments under the leaked video are all negative. No one with a brain would ever enroll in that place again. The president is trembling like a chi who are completely shocked. Kong just says he only did what was necessary. The system sends a notification saying his provocation level has increased and that the monarch of masks is impressed. Kong receives a gift box as a reward. Immediately, he leaves the building and runs into Mr. Park, who thanks him, but asks, "Are you sure it's safe for the intelligence agency to take that kind of risk? Won't they punish you for leaking the video?" Mr. Park replies that the government was already unhappy with the association. This isn't the first time they clashed. Kong says, "That's a relief. Since you're here, how about giving me a ride to the tower?" Mr. Park asks, "Which one?" And Kong answers the level 5 tower. When they arrive, the system instantly displays the mission coordinates. The goal is to escort a caravan and ensure the cargo reaches its destination safely. Kong waves goodbye to Mr. Park. Now in the Oasis Desert, a group of warriors is struggling against vicious creatures and on the verge of defeat when Kong appears, saving them. In the realm of towers, players always arrive at critical moments, right when they're needed most. That's why they're seen as saviors and how they earn their mythos. At that very moment, Kong unleashes a barrage of blades that strike down the creatures, wiping them all out. Then, in an attempt to make a cool impression, he walks toward the warriors and says, "Guess who's here?" But they just stare at him in confusion. So he adds, "A visiting player. Apostle, call me whenever you want." The warriors cheer with joy, shouting, "The God of Light must be watching over us. He's protecting us." Kong thinks to himself, "God of Light, I got a bad feeling about this," and asks, "Is there another threat in this desert besides these monsters?" One of the warriors answers, "We're in the territory of the Divine Kingdom. The presence of heretics here isn't a problem. We're also not far from our destination, just a 3-day journey." Frustrated, Kong mutters, "3 days? I should have taken that break." A warrior asks if something's wrong, but noticing more monsters approaching, Kong replies, "Don't worry. Go get some rest. As long as I'm here, you're safe. He adds that he'll take the night watch. The warriors thank him, calling him Apostle of Light. Kong equips the Vitality Necklace, which significantly boosts his regeneration rate while worn. The system reminds him that the gift box still hasn't been opened. Remembering it, he opens it manually and receives an advanced growth stone. Our protagonist smiles and says, "Finally, something useful." He turns around and notices more monsters coming his way, but puts the stone away, knowing he won't need it for this fight. In the next chapter, he summons his little cat, Noah, saying, "Time to eat," but quickly realizes he can't leave everything to him. Drawing all his blades, he unleashes them at once, cutting through waves of scorpion-like monsters. Kong says, "These blades move according to my will." This is an incredible skill. His sword telekinesis ability levels up. He thinks the fight's over until the ground shakes. A massive sand devourer emerges from beneath the desert. Smirking, Kong says, "I had a feeling this was coming. Guess I'm not sleeping tonight." Before he can react, Nor shows up with a crazed look, slamming the creature down using telekinesis. Kong finishes it off in a split second. His skills level up again. Telekinesis and Ice Blade materialization. They continue their journey through the desert. Kong turns to the warriors and asks if there are knights traveling with them. One of them answers, "Yes, brave knights who also serve the god of light." Our protagonist asks, "And where exactly were these knights last night?" The warrior explains that their top priority is protecting the cargo. Curious, Kong thinks, even in this chaos, their main concern is the cargo. He asks, "Which order do they belong to?" The soldier replies, "The Crimson Crossmates." Kong smiles and says, "Then whatever is inside that carriage must be pretty valuable." The soldier's expression hardens. "That's none of your concern. I suggest you focus on your divine purpose instead." Our boy realizes that not only did they hire knights capable of using aura hearts, but they also summoned him, the so-called Apostle of Light. This whole thing is way more complicated than he expected. He tells the soldier that now he's even more curious. One of the warriors, clearly scared by the tense situation, says there's no need for this. And suddenly, Kong pulls him close, protecting him with an ice shield while shouting, "We're under attack. Get down." It's the heretics on horseback firing arrows. How do they even manage to get into sacred territory? They're using hit-and-run tactics. "Let's see how the knights handle this," Kong mutters. The knights yell, "Protect the carriage at all costs. Maintain formation and activate the aura shield." A merchant gets struck by an arrow, and Kong notices the knights couldn't care less about what happens to anyone else. The system reminds him of his mission objective. Ensure the caravan reaches its destination safely. After a moment of hesitation, Kong steps forward, drives his sword into the ground, and summons the power of shadows. With one leap, he's about to finish off a hernic until he realizes they're actually desert elves. Next chapter. Kong senses an incoming attack and raises his shield, but the arrow pierces through it. He quickly realizes these enemies can use aura, too. An elf charges at him, shouting, "Die heretic!" Kong blocks and remembers that these people serve a specific monarch. Holding his sword to the elf's neck, he demands, "What's inside that carriage?" Grinding his teeth, the elf calls him a bastard and says he won't say a word. Then he screams to his allies to fire at the protagonist, telling them not to worry about what happens to him. Without hesitation, the extras unleash a rain of arrows. But our boy is unstoppable. He activates his shield and blocks every single one. The elf is drenched in sweat, still refusing to talk. Kong insists, saying he just wants to know what's in the carriage, that's all. Then he adds coldly, "If you're going to make things harder for me, I'll have to deal with your little friends." The elf freezes in shock as one of his comrades gets hit with a shard of ice straight through the eye. And not just him. All of them are subdued under Kang's overwhelming power. Feeling like the ultimate Chad, he says, "I'll ask one more time. What are you transporting in that carriage?" In a rather awkward position, the elf blurts out, "How dare you? That's Princess Syria." Smiling, Kong says so. The heretics kidnap their own princess. "Huh, I'll spare you extras this time." The elf, still stunned, tries to say something, but Kong cuts him off. "Don't you think it'd be wiser to retreat while your heads are still attached, so you can come try to kill me again later?" The elf stands silently, then runs off with his fellow extras. Moments later, a soldier runs up to Kong, calling for him and asking, "Why did you let those elves escape?" Spreading his arms, Kong says, "I just want to check something." The soldier chases after him, shouting for him to wait. In the next scene, Kong approaches a guard standing at a door and tells him to move aside. The trembling guard says he has no orders to let him pass. In full Sun Jun Woo fashion, Kong summons his demonic cat and says, "You'd better move while I'm still being nice." He places his hands on the door, opens it, and asks, "Do you want me to save you?" And here we go again. Another scene that might get the channel demonetized. This is Princess Syria of the Kingdom of Iab. She's furious, shouting that she won't be rescued by a heretic like him. The little system chimes in. Don't lose sight of your mission. The Monarch of Light warns the player about his actions. Kong, who couldn't care less about anything, immediately pulls out his knife, spins it in his hand, and slashes through everything, cutting the princess to chains. The system warns him, you've unlocked a secret mission. Save the princess and earn 300,000 achievement points. Then, more and more system windows pop up in front of our boy, announcing that the tower has received an update. It's no longer level 5. It's now level 5 ultra hard. Smirking, he says, this game is garbage. But he has to admit it's a creative one. Suddenly, angels start descending from the sky, and the Monarch of Light declares that Kong will pay the price for defying the light. These angels are the Light Watchers, servants of the Monarch of Light. The system explains that their vision extends wherever light reaches, and they do not tolerate darkness. The soldiers start cheering, shouting that the emissaries of light have arrived and command them to eliminate everyone who opposes the light, including Kong. Our boy's jaw practically hits the floor. They're acting all high and mighty just because reinforcements showed up. He mutters. The princess, sweating nervously, asks what he's going to do. With a confident smile, he tells her not to worry. He's called in reinforcements, too. The protagonist begins casting a dark spell, and the system notifies him that the Monarch of Shadows has approved his decision. With that, he gains the Shadow mental buff. The soldiers panic, saying they can't see anything. Then a sinister voice echoes, "Envelop the world in our cloak." Grinning ear to ear, Kong says, I knew it. The rewards are way better in this mode. And thus begins the free stabbing session. Soldiers are being shredded to pieces, blood splattering everywhere, while the angels stand frozen, completely unable to comprehend what's happening. One of them screams, Lethier be leaky, releasing a blinding attack. The others follow, attempting the same, but nothing happens. A whirlwind of darkness engulfs the angels, disorienting them. Then, slash, one of them takes a vertical cut right through the body. The rest of the angels are in disbelief, asking how this is even possible. Our boy's there, slicing through them, all spinning and flipping like a gym gone rogue. When he lands, the system notifies him. The Light Watchers have entered permanent hostile mode. But because of his shadows, Kong gains more points and his darkness power increases. Smiling proudly, he says, that's one less. Stepping on a fallen angel, he mutters, now I can finally see clearly. Suddenly he hears a sound. The system announces that multiple factions have started observing him. The next chapter opens by explaining how the realm of towers and the worlds within the towers are different. For instance, the knights or the desert elves encountered inside are inhabitants of a world within a tower. However, the monarchs and their factions belong to the upper layer, the realm of towers itself. Players act as intermediaries bridging the two dimensions. And when a faction appears within a tower's world, it's essentially a reflection of that same concept. But players aren't puppets who blindly obey a monarch's will. We've seen examples the pawns who follow the Monarch of Light without question, or that elf whose mission was to escort the princess. If players can look beyond what the game tells them, they can make countless different choices. For example, since Kong is aligned with the shadows by betraying the light, the shadows now reward him with even greater power. After all, not even the monarchs themselves can break the rules that bind them. Back to the fight. Our boy looks up at the sky, thinking, 5 left. Then one angel appears, wielding 2 gigantic glowing orbs. And yeah, I don't know how I only noticed that now. Sorry, folks. The angel begins charging a massive spell, shouting, Insulane fool. He releases his attack, trying to save the soldiers trapped in the darkness. More beams of light rain down, but Kong doesn't even flinch. He says, no matter how badly the Light Watchers want me dead, this is a level 5 tower. The strongest angel they can summon here is rank 9. That's the tower's rule. The angels, drawn better than most of the women in this mana, are shouting in fury, let the light destroy the darkness. All of them, or maybe both, since who even knows if angels are male or female, unleash their beams of light upon the soldiers. One poor soldier just stands there completely lost. They were already attacked by the shadows, and now they're being electrocuted for free. Poor guy. Laughing, our boy says, it seems they don't care what happens to their devotees. Remembering the last battle, he adds that karma sure came fast. The protagonist thinks that even for just a moment, they might be able to bring light into the darkness. At that moment, he activates the shadow mantle and charges straight toward the angels, saying, you better not underestimate me. He runs right through the beams of light, and in the middle of all that chaos, the princess is standing there terrified. Suddenly, She gasps as Kong rushes in, scooping her up in his arms. He sets her down on the ground, calling for his shadow cat. Kong takes out a pink crystal, saying, "This will help protect the princess in his place." It's the Grove Stone. He crushes the crystal and hands the power over to the shadow cat. The princess is frozen in shock, screaming as beams of light rain down on them. But then the cat grows enormous, taller than a building. The princess braces herself for the blast, but our favorite kitty blocks the angel's attack. They exchange attacks for a while, darkness clashing against holy light, until Kong thanks his pet for holding the line. One of the angels scoffs, calling him a weak mortal who can't win. Meanwhile, Kong charges forward toward the angels. One of them draws a sword and blocks his strike, and a wild sword fight begins, blades clashing from every direction. As they trade blows, Kong mutters that the thorns won't hold much longer, and he needs to keep moving. Something catches his attention. At the last second, he raises his sword to block an incoming strike. He dodges again, wondering how they're moving so fast, even with all the debuffs. He decides to retreat, descending and parrying their attacks. But blood splatters as one angel manages to wound him. Sliding back, he curses under his breath, saying those wings are a problem, and he'll have to bring them down with one decisive hit. He prepares to unleash a powerful spell, but the angels are quick. A beam of light strikes right at the center of his summoning circle. Kong sweating, and suddenly a bolt hits him square in the chest. He grits his teeth in pain, but it's not lightning. It's an angel with a spear. His swords drop to the ground, and one of the angels yells, "This is our moment. Cut him in half." But Kong smiles, and suddenly dozens of system notifications flood the air. Waves of buffs. The spear in his chest begins to dissolve. The angels halt their attack. One of them says something's wrong. And that's when it happens. Farewell, angels. A storm of swords tears through the sky, raining down on them as the massacre begins. He activates a buff that increases his fatal damage by 50%. Granting, he says, time to end this. The next chapter opens with angels getting shredded from every direction. The last one tries to escape, but our boy conjures an enormous great sword and hurls it, impaling the angel straight into the ground. With that, the battle ends. He gains 3 levels. Walking through the battlefield, he suddenly stops, remembering something. Looking to the side, he sees fallen soldiers, and then something touches his foot. It's his beloved shadow cat, stretching lazily. If you're Team Cat, leave a like on the video, so I know. Then the princess approaches, calling out to Kong. She asks, "Why did you go so far to help me? You even betrayed." Like the good capitalist he is, he answers, "Because of the rewards." But she keeps going, saying, "They were humans just like you. Are you planning to keep me captive for ransom?" The protagonist pets his cat and says, "Honestly, I can't stand my own kind." Then he apologizes and adds that she's asking weird questions. She just sits there with that lost puppy face while he keeps calmly stroking his cat. A few days later, they reach the border of the AU kingdom. Now, the princess is all smiles, thanking him with genuine joy. But all he cares about is whether he'll get his rewards. She confirms that he will. At that moment, she extends her hand and says she has a gift for him. He accepts it, and the system immediately announces that he's conquered the tower of the deserted wasteland and received an accessory with no description, just 3 question marks. Surprised, he asks, "What is this?" Suddenly, he's teleported into a void. The system explains, an emblem of trust given by Princess Syria. His purpose is currently unknown, but it may prove useful in the future. The scene shifts to what seems to be our boy on a train heading somewhere. For hours earlier, Mr. Park had asked him to go to Booze Inn. Kong questioned whether something was already happening there, but Mr. Park replied that not yet, though something soon would. Then we get a rundown about a player named Natasha Ivanova, a notorious international criminal. She falls under the classification of a black hat player to escape Russian authorities. Ivanova infiltrated Korea through the ports of Busan and began clearing towers in the city with the help of her 4 subordinates. Reports suggest she possesses the legendary skill card Shadow Mantle. When Kong steps off the train, his phone rings. It's Mr. Park. He asks how the trick to Busan went and jokes. "Did you run into any zombies on the way?" Disgusted, Kong replies, "I know you're watching me. Just give me a ride already." Mr. Park then tells him they've received intel about the tower. Ivanova and her team are inside. Kong asks, "What's the level?" Mr. Park answers, "Level 5. The scene cuts to Kong arriving at the site and entering the tower. With a grimace, he says, "I knew the level 5 tower would be a crazy jungle, but the system warns him, survive against the hungry infected." Then, out of nowhere, the ugliest zombie he's ever seen in a manual appears. Kong raises his sword and says, "Is that really a zombie?" But just before striking, he stops and asks why Nor showed up. Apparently, his cat's hungry. The sneaky fur bolt is drooling while staring at the zombie. Poor zombie. It lunges toward the cat, but suddenly a giant shadow whale appears and obliterates it. Kang's face lights up with excitement. Wow, he got way stronger after absorbing the growth stone. But seriously, why whale? And honestly, it's a stunning sight, glowing like Goku in Super Saiyan mode. Then someone starts clapping. A voice says, "I've been waiting for you." She continues, "I knew it. There's no way the Hero King would let a villain like me roam free." This is the infamous Natasha Ivanova. They stare each other down for a moment before Kong says, "As a member of the Red Mafia, you became a wanted criminal in Russia, so you and your lackey crossed into Korea, threw booze in." Covering her mouth with her hand, she asks if he's there to arrest her. Drawing his swords, Kong answers, "I don't know why people like you keep underestimating me. I guess Russian intelligence doesn't think very highly of me." Then he rushes forward, pointing his blade straight at Natasha, and says, "Those subordinates of yours, they're Russian intelligence too, aren't they? You think you can capture me and toss me to the zombies?" She steps back, saying that even though he knows her true identity, he still had the nerve to enter this tower. Smirking, he replies, "You think I came here just to die?" He begins summoning his signature rain of swords, saying it's the only way to steal her legendary skill. But the redhead flits backward, dodging every strike and shouting that she already knew that. Then she screams, "Take him down," and our boy barely manages to dodge in time. Still, her little free fire soldiers keep shooting like maniacs. Kong is unstoppable, dodging everything in full Matrix style. He closes in on Natasha, ready to land that sharp, clean slash. Grinning, she turns, dodges, and gives him a finger, mocking him. He's stunned. His sword slams into the ground, and he can't figure out where she disappeared to. While blocking bullets, he studies the enemy's weapons. 3 assault rifles, 1 sniper. He leaps, twisting midair, dodging another volley, thinking the first shot might have been luck. But after blocking another, he realizes something's off. Because with the shadow mantle active, he's supposed to be invisible. Smiling through his confusion, he mutters, "Then how the hell are these bastards see me?" And that's when our favorite Nowhere makes his entrance. Kong glances at him and says he's going to need his help. The cat mews happily, ready for action. One of the women shouts, "We can't pierce the ice shields. We need a new plan, but too late." Kang's already behind them. Blood splashes as the shadow thorns skewer everything in sight. Nora doesn't mess around. He nearly gets another one, too. But that guy barely blocks with his rifle at the last second. A wounded blonde shouts for everyone to stay away from the cat shadows. Arms crossed, Kong smirks. So, if you can see Nora's shadow, too, that's a surprise. Just as he's about to say more, a blade presses against his throat. Nash appears, warning him not to move. Maybe she'll spare his life if he listens. But Kong just grins. "You talk like you'd actually kill me." Brimming with confidence, she says, "Don't underestimate our intelligence. Those achievement points you earned in the level 5 tower were abnormally high, and since then you've only been clearing lower level towers. You did the same thing last season, right after using your survival ability." She orders him to get rid of the cat. Meanwhile, Moore is happily tossing shadow spikes everywhere, the soldiers screaming in pain. Kong grips her dagger and says with a smirk, "How exactly are you going to kill me if I'm not even the real one?" She freezes, totally confused, and before she can react, 3 swords are already at her neck. "Game over, lady." He says, "I knew from the start this wasn't really the shadow mantle. It was just bait to lure me in, wasn't it?" He adds, "But since my senses really were distorted, that can only mean one thing. The legendary illusion ability that manipulates a target's visual perception." Her sword falls to the ground and disintegrates while Kong activates a gravitational skill. Natasha's body slams to the floor and Kong stands over her, saying, "It's not that easy to fool people. You know, you'll have to do better than that." He shuts her eyes in defeat, and he mocks her, saying she's about to become zombie food. Brutal poor woman. The system announces that a player has been killed. But right then Kong notices something. The sword stopped right before landing the final blow, and the system flashes an alert. Multiple survivors detected. A massive drone appears overhead, declaring that all survivors in Zombie 16 must be eliminated. A bald soldier looks up and sees several robots descending, repeating in unison, "Eliminate. Eliminate." He slings his weapon onto his back and starts running. Suddenly, a giant Megazord-looking machine shows up holding an enormous cannon and says, "Initiating confidentiality control protocol." Boom! An explosion goes off, and we see the player who had just been killed. Kane puts on a serious face, thinking, will my shields even hold up against that? But then a red beam cuts through everything, heading straight toward him and Natasha. He crosses his arms, trying to brace himself. Out of nowhere, a massive clock chimes, and Natasha freezes in shock. A strange figure appears, saying, "What a waste. Looks like 2 people died without using their points." That greedy little shop elf from before points at someone and says, "This is all your fault, sir." The shameless guy just grins and apologizes half-heartedly. Honestly, if there's anyone who loves points more than that elf, I don't know who it is. True to his capitalist nature, he says, "Buy a card pack, and I'll forgive you." Kong just stands there laughing, clearly tempted to flip him off. Then the elf points toward Natasha, who is lying on the ground, all depressed, and says, "Try selling to that beggar over there." He yells from across the room, "Hey, beggar, you've got the second highest amount of points here. Want to spend them before you die." Poor Natasha on the verge of death, and now being humiliated by the ultimate capitalist. The elf keeps going, saying, "There's no chance you'll survive, but if you buy a pack and pull a mythical card, your odds might improve." She's just staring at him in disbelief, thinking, who would ever buy from someone this arrogant? Then he turns to Kong, asking him to buy one too. Kong chuckles, saying, "You really are insane. That's all you ever think about." But then he freezes when Natasha suddenly screams that she's going to spend all 374,000 of her points on random card packs. The next chapter starts with Kong completely bored watching her open the cards. She begins, and surprised to absolutely no one. It's just a stream of common cards. Natasha is clenching her teeth and sweating bullets, while our tiny capitalist cheers her on, saying, "Don't give up. You'll pull a mythical card soon." Meanwhile, she's practically ripping her fingernails off from stress. Kong comments that pulling a mythical card is like finding a needle in a haystack. She's opened nearly 1,000 packs already, and says this is her last one. Honestly, I'd hire this elf as my personal coach. The shameless little guy is yelling, "Don't quit. You've got 7 cards left. You're going to make it." What an inspirational scammer. The redhead's practically praying now. "If I don't get a decent card, I'm dead. Please, God, give me at least a legendary." But nothing happens. She collapses to her knees, cursing everything. Then, guess who shows up again? The elf offers her a potion, saying she still has 4,000 points left to spend. The capitalist menace never stops. Kong grins and asks if the 2 of them are finally done with their little drama. "I swear I take a marketing course from this scam artist." He even says, "You've burned through all your bad luck." Then pulls out a chest full of golden cards and offers it to Kong, saying, "Buy just one. You'll hit the jackpot. Don't fall for it, protagonist. I've fallen for that scam way too many times. Run while you can." Kong, being smart, covers his mouth and says, "Wow, that's brutal even for me." Meanwhile, the redhead is losing her mind, yelling at Kong, calling him a jerk, and demanding that he go to hell and at least buy 1 pack. He tells her she deserves everything that's happening, though. To be fair, she's got a point, and decides to buy 1 pack. The first one, of course, it's a common card, but it's ice bold again. The system asks if he wants to upgrade it to level 2. He thinks, well, at least that's better than pulling 10,000 useless comments, and turns to call Natasha. But before he can say anything, she's already right in his face, hands on his neck, looking like a demon, yelling at him to shut up and not interrupt her. Completely confused, he asks the elf what she's saying. But a SLE little capitalist just wigs him off and says, "See you later. Goodbye." Kong tries to tell him to wait, but the elf's already gone. The redhead starts cursing him out, calling him every name imaginable. But then out of nowhere, an explosion erupts and someone else arrives. It's those giant Megazord-looking robots again, carrying bazookas and ready to wipe out her due. Natasha is distracted, looking to the side, and Kong calls out to her. She turns, asking what he wants, and in that instant, a horizontal slash cuts through the air, sending a head flying. That was brutal. I did not see that coming. I actually thought they'd end up getting along, maybe even as a couple. But nope, that's the end of our redhead. Apparently, Kong has a thing for beheading people. He charges toward one of the robots. Slash. Another head gone. 2 more leap at him, but he's already charging up his power. He swings his weapon, unleashing an explosion that wipes the robots out completely. Then he hears a noise. 2 of the robots combine and fire a massive wave of flames at him. He dodges and says, "Damn, a pharmaceutical company owns all this. As soon as I get home, I'm investing in them." He starts charging up what looks like a Rhiannon, throws it into the air, and shouts, "Unlucky for you. Today, I'm deleting you from my shopping list." A freezing blast engulfs the robots, followed by a massive explosion that wipes out everything around. Kong walks out of the smoky with his cap beside him as multiple reward windows pop up around him. As a prize for clearing the zombie tower, he's allowed to choose one of the players who died inside it. Smiling, he says he already knows exactly what he wants. The system congratulates him. He's obtained the skill OS. It explains that when a player returns to the real world after clearing a tower, all players who fail are also revived, but only those killed by another player. Kane looks at them and thinks, looks like 2 of them were killed by Noor. The pain from that must still be fresh, so there's no way they can escape. And there she is again. Natasha back from the dead for the 2nd time on her hands and knees like a stray dog. Unbelievable. This is the 2nd time I thought she was done for. That woman's stubborn. Kong waves at her casually while she crawls, asking why. Confident as ever, he glances back and says, "Why? You want to get arrested? Then dial 911 or surrender at the nearest police station. I don't care what you do." Brutal as always. She stares confused, asking if he's really just going to let her go. He says yes, but she has to tell her friends how amazing he is, completely breaking her spirit. Kong adds, "The dead don't talk, so I need you alive to spread my words." In the next chapter, someone on the phone asks him why he saved that woman. Mocking the poor redhead, he says he just returned the favor for the legendary card and the free card unboxing video. The guy on the phone yells, "You idiot. Why do you always try to save people who want you dead?" Kong replies that he's not a violent killer. He prefers to handle things peacefully. Grinding his teeth, Mr. Park shouts, "Very funny, kid. What the hell do you think all those idiots are after? Obviously, they want to kill you, you fool." He keeps lecturing, saying, "Damn it, you're useless. Why, I raise you like my own son." Kong calmly says, "That's not true. If it weren't for his skill, that internet cafe would gone bankrupt long ago." Sigh, Mr. Park says it doesn't matter anymore, and tells him to just come back safely. Smiling, Kong replies, "All right, I'll be there soon, and thanks for worrying about me." And then the narration continues. There are many names for players within the towers. Player, visitor, apostle, and just as many in the outside world. Weapons, units of military power, asymmetric biological assets, heroes. But in truth, players aren't heroes, they're war heroes. They're tools used to eliminate threats for their nations, just like Natasha Ivanova. So, our boy starts wondering if that's really what they want from him. If there are no real heroes left in these modern days, suddenly some random guy nearby asks, "Wait, isn't that the Hero King?" Kong quickly pulls his hood up, realizing he forgot to cover his face. The guy leans over to his girlfriend and whispers, "Hey, maybe don't point at him if it's really him. He's got a nasty personality, you know?" Like every loyal waifu, she defends him right away, saying she heard he's actually kind. It only acts that way in front of cameras because reporters are annoying. As they walk off, she says, "He's still the #1 hero. We're alive today because of him. If it weren't for him, the world would have ended back in season 2. And I also heard he secretly donates all the profits from his merch and toys to charity." The guy shrugs. "Okay, that part one didn't know, but I heard they're releasing mythical tier versions of his shirt soon. I'm pretty sure he's just greedy for money." Kong gives a faint smile and lets out a relieved sigh. Time passes, and then a reporter starts shouting, trying to get a word with him. Kong complains that he can't even walk in peace anymore, then leaps away to escape. Next thing we know, he's already inside a level 5 tower called the Tower of Sword and Sorcery. He mutters that he'd rather rest inside a tower than deal with reporters. A bunch of soldiers nearby are praising a saint for summoning a hero. He tilts his head, thinking, "Saint? What are they talking about?" Then a blue-haired woman steps forward, smiling warmly, and says it's an honor to meet him, thanking him for answering the call. This is Saint Eligius Aristina, the 37th saint of the holy state of Sarastina. Damn it, I thought we were finally getting a proper way in the story, but since she's a saint, of course, we can't expect much fan service. Kong, being the shameless guy he is, flashes a smile, probably already thinking she's going to hand out some good rewards. He shakes her hand and says, "It's a pleasure. I'll lend you my sword and my service as a hero." All cheerful, Kong then asks what she wants him to do. Elise begins explaining the history of the continent of Philia. He immediately cuts her off, saying, "Let me guess it's something about angels and demons fighting, right?" Her eyes light up. Indeed, that's exactly right. She continues with full enthusiasm. In the beginning, there were the Celestials and the demons, and a war between light and darkness began. The demons who were meant to remain trapped in the abyss invaded the world of light, and to stop them, the Celestials created the weapon known as the Ark. However, the demons were relentless. Over time, the seal began to weaken, and thus the Ark had to be reactivated. Honestly, I was ready to skip this whole speech. Couldn't take another second of lore dump. Thankfully, our boy stepped in before it dragged on. 1 point to the protagonist. He cuts her off and says, "All right, let's go kill the demons and save the world." She looks flustered and says, "The story is only just beginning. Try and keep talking." Kong folds his arms, turns around, and starts walking away. She panics, asking what he's doing. He grabs her arm and says, "Let's just get this over with already." Desperate, the saint stammers that he doesn't even know where the Ark is. He raises a brow. "And do you?" Awkwardly, She admits she doesn't. She's about to say something else when suddenly a red portal opens and a demonic hand emerges. The saint stands there frozen like a fool, and then outsteps what looks like the Skull King from Yu-Gi-Oh! The background soldiers immediately rush forward, yelling that he's trash, a filthy demon unworthy of standing there. Man, I really thought they were all going to get wiped out in one hit, but surprisingly they're actually managing to hold their ground against the demon, swinging blades and firing beams of light. The demon growls impossible and sticks out his tongue and mocks everyone, saying that divine power doesn't work on me. He starts charging up some kind of power, and someone shouts for everyone to fall back. But the saint steps forward, insisting that she wants to help our boy. Kong raises his hand and says, "I'm fine. Just stay safe." The Skull King goes for a strike aimed at the saint, but Kong blocks it in time and asks if she's all right. She nods, already falling head over heels for him. Oh my God, he risked his life to protect us. Then she clasps her hands together, praying to her goddess for mercy upon their souls. And boom, the ice surrounding the demon bursts apart. She cries out for the hero, asking if he's hurt, while Kong just covers his face and says the demon left a message before he vanished. He said the demons will reclaim the Ark and that this world of light will soon be swallowed by their darkness. You warn me to stay away from their objective. The saint's sweating bullets, muttering that this is bad. Kong says there's no time to waste and asks if she has any idea where the Ark is. Alicia is stunned, saying she had no clue the Armageddon was this close, but she mentions there's a place they can go. Next thing we see, they're already riding horses at full speed. While galloping, Kong glances over and says, "You were getting bored too, huh? Nice acting back there." And then Nora appears beside him, mewing with a smug grin. Turns out the whole thing was just a setup. Kang's plan to scare the locals. He tells Moore to hold back on using flashy powers, so no one gets suspicious. The saint asks if he wants her to slow down, but Kong says no, that everything's fine. He grins and adds, "I got to do things my own way if I want to be efficient." That's how you use a legendary skill. In the next chapter, they arrive at the Adventurers Guild. Kong says he heard they'd need some kind of item to enter the labyrinth. The blonde receptionist confirms, saying they'll need an adventurer's license, and asks them to wait for their number to be called. While waiting, the saint starts explaining that they're in the labyrinth city of Garcia, a neutral zone between the holy state of Sristina and the Draeger Empire. As the name suggests, she continues, it's a city built around an ancient underground labyrinth full of opportunities. Kong chuckles, saying that can't be a good sign. If they hid the Ark here, something's definitely off. Their number gets called, and the receptionist asks them to sign a document. The clueless Sync starts signing without even reading it. But thankfully, Kong stops her and tells her to hold on. Pointing at the paper, he says the guild waives all responsibility for any deaths that occur inside the labyrinth. All recovered bodies and belongings are considered property of the city. I have to agree to this just to get a license. The receptionist gives a nervous smile and says the guild offers everyone an equal chance to gather immense riches from the labyrinth. However, the life of an adventurer comes with risks. Risks only those who accept them can face. The saint agrees, and Kong mutters that those contract clauses really make you appreciate how valuable life is. The receptionist wishes them good luck on their journey. Next scene, they're already descending into the ancient labyrinth. They reach the first floor, and Kong immediately draws his sword, asking if the saint's ready. She nods. A swarm of giant rats, like Twitch from League of Legends, rushes at him. He blocks one and shouts for the Sync to attack. She fires a beam of light and decapitates a rat. One down. Actually, make that all of them down, because in the very next scene, they're already on floor 5. Apparently, they got there faster than expected. Honestly, same here. They killed one rat and somehow skipped 4 floors. Bravo, author. Kong moves ahead confidently, saying they made it so quickly thanks to her amazing abilities. Felicia blushes and thanks him shyly. Then she adds, although some adventurers did help us by defeating the monsters along the way, I was really grateful since we were in such a hurry. Our protagonists give a slight grin and thinks, I'm pretty sure they only got mad because that was their hunting zone, all bright and naive. The saint says that as long as people support each other the way adventurers do, they'll have nothing to fear from the demons. Acting all confident, he tells her not to worry about that. He's going to get that ancient weapon for her. Suddenly, a bald, muscular guy appears, greeting them with a smug tone and saying, we heard you entered the labyrinth without paying the tolls. This is the Bandit's Labyrinth. The saint looks completely lost. Kong says, I don't know exactly what they're called in this world, but you can always find their type in any large labyrinth. Usually, they're called labyrinth bandits or adventure hunters. The bald guy raises his hand and says, exactly right, then gets straight to the point. Hand over everything you've got. The saint, being the ultimate pacifist, pleads. Please wait. We can resolve this peacefully through dialogue. With his usual sarcasm, Kong says, "Ah, yes, of course we can. Why did you hear us out for a moment?" Then he starts retelling that same story the saint tried to tell him earlier. In the beginning, there were angels and demons, and now this world stands on the brink of annihilation because of the demons' invasion. I'm a hero summoned from another dimension to save this world. And to do that, I must find the angels' ancient weapon, the Ark. The bandits just stand there blank-faced, having no clue what he's talking about. He keeps going saying, as she is the 37th saint of the holy state of Sarastina. We're searching for the Ark together, so could you please let us continue our journey? All cheerful, the saint nods and says that's right, we're trying to save the world. The bald guy bursts out laughing and asks his men if any of them have a clue what these two lunatics are talking about. One of the lackey, barely holding back laughter, says they must be spouting nonsense because they're scared. Alicia looks stunned while Kong just says he expected as much. The bald man shrugs, saying he doesn't care. And that's when the cutting session begins. Kong flashes through the air, slashing down his enemies. One of the bandits already lost his arms and is screaming in pain. The bald guy tries to swing, but his hand's gone too. Someone throws an axe, but Kong blocks it with ease. Then a female voice snaps. Who dares lay hands on my men? Looks like you're stronger than you seem. Wait, am I going crazy? Or isn't that the receptionist from the Adventurers Guild? It really is her. The saint recognizes her instantly. Alicia stands there in disbelief, and Kong calmly explains that the guild and the bandits are working together. They ambush rookie adventurers and demand payment for their lives. Even if they can't pay, their bodies still fetch a good price. The saint is horrified, unable to believe what they're doing. The blonde smirks and says, "Ha, she's way too naive to be adventuring here. You almost fooled me, pretending to be a saint, but no real saint would ever come to a place like this. That's just how things work in the Labyrinth City." She leaps forward, swinging her axe at them, shouting, "It's too late for mercy." But Kane blocks her attack, grins, and says, "Watch your steps, sweetheart." Her face freezes in pure fear as she turns around, and there's our favorite shadow kitty shredding everyone in sight. All we hear is a loud crunch, and Nor standing there looking pleased after his little afternoon snack. Kong says the path is clear now. The saint, still in shock, stays silent for a few seconds, then quietly follows him. They walk for a while until they reach what looks like a coliseum. Kong steps down and says that for tonight, they'll rest there and start again in the morning. Apparently, the saint still hasn't recovered from what happened in that last fight. Kong looks at her and says, "You've had that serious look ever since we ran into those bandits. The world isn't anything like you imagined, is it?" Looking down, she answers, "The world's ending, and people are still fighting over money. You're used to this kind of thing, aren't you, hero?" It seems our boy remembers that crazy guy saying, "What everyone really needs in this new world is a war between heroes." He replies, "It's more or less the same in every world." And she nods, understanding. Alicia asks, "What does your world look like?" Kong says, "My world's been on the brink of collapse more times than I can count. We didn't have someone like you to warn us about what was coming, so things got really dangerous." She apologizes, saying if it's a sensitive subject, he doesn't have to talk about it. He chuckles, "It's fine," and explains that everything was going well until the third time. Then at some point, people started putting their own interests first. The saint asks, "And you? Did you get corrupted too?" Smirking, the protagonist tells her to guess. They fall silent for a bit. She thinks for a while and says something, though we have no idea what since the speech bubble's empty. "Damn you, author." Whatever it was, it surprises Kong. He laughs and says, "That doesn't make any sense." Time passes, and he starts to feel that things are too quiet until something catches his eye. A golden glow. And look who it is. Our supreme capitalist showing up again with his shiny pack of cards. Kong grins. "Perfect. That's exactly what I was waiting for since I leveled up twice." He tells the capitalist supreme, "Show me your best stuff." The next chapter jumps ahead a few days. They're already on the hunt floor fighting a massive winged serpent, shouting, "The Ark will be ours." The hero, as it summons two gigantic snakes toward him. Our saint is in the back giving buffs to our hero while a field of purple spikes bursts from ground. Kong leaps forward and strikes down, delivering a clean vertical slash that cuts straight through the giant snake and the boss of this floor. As it's dying, the snake whispers, "My lord, forgive me for failing to protect the Ark." The protagonist just waves it off. Yeah, have a nice trip back." He sighs, saying he's exhausted. But then the system rewards him with 10,000 points and a random special ability. Turning to the saint, he says, "These demons really have perfect timing. How they show up right after we finish the test." Elysia,